All right, greetings and welcome to the Eccentric Perspective. Today is Tuesday, April 15th of 2025. I am your host, Blake Wally. I'll be here for the next 60 to 90 minutes covering the latest news and current events. It's a big happy tax day to everybody. What a nightmare, but hopefully it'll be the last one. We shall see. Trump has talked about perhaps getting rid of the IRS, at least floated that out, perhaps. Perhaps we'll make so much money on these tariffs we won't need to tax the citizens any longer. I don't know, but my taxes were a pain in the ass with the all the crypto BS, but I'm here, almost finished. And we'll look forward to today. Got some interesting stuff going on in the news so far. Well, it's really hard to pick like a specific headline. And I was even asking Grok about that. And it didn't really seem to be one particular one that sticks out. But we've got quite a few interesting topics to cover regardless, and we can always switch things up. So if you guys want to get involved, you may steer the direction of the show. If you would like to share something with the rest of the class, perhaps you've got an interesting story that maybe I should be covering, or perhaps breaking news, or you can constructive criticism, ruthless trolling, whatever you want. Feel free to drop a line wherever you're at. Here is the thumbnail for today. So I got the Blue Origin penis rocket in the background there. But it's a historic day for Jeff Bezos' space program. And of course, we might have, war with Iran. So I've got my Ron Paul shirt on because he was criticizing that. So that's the explanation for that, I suppose. Let's take a look at the headlines. Here's what I've got on tap. So, should the United States, should we go to war with Iran to protect Israel? And has the debate, the big old Israel-Palestine debate, has that been finally settled in wake of this Dave Smith and Douglas Murray, the big showdown that they had last Friday on Joe Rogan, all the rave this weekend. I missed out doing my taxes and working on other stuff, but we're almost finished with that. So that'll be a nice little weight off the shoulders there, but didn't get really much to sound off. And there's not a whole lot going on. That was kind of the big issue, or a few of them. And let's see, we've got Karmelo Anthony case. Is that going to be like the OJ case for this generation? Perhaps that's kind of one I've avoided. I have not sounded off on. Didn't want to get ahead of that. That was a trap. But I'm going to cover it today. We've got the Trump administration. Should they rescue Abrego Garcia from the El Salvadoran prison there, CCOT? And Bill Maher shouldn't be praised for the Trump turnaround. It's worded a little oddly, but that's from the headline I stole it from out of the Federalist. And then we've got Carville called it. Is Trump trying to bring down the country? I guess there's people freaking out about that over on Blue Sky in the leftist echo chamber, but are they onto something? We shall see. And finally, of course, as with the thumbnail, the Blue Origin space flight. Is that a historic game changer? Maybe. We shall see. And what else? Okay, I want to cover... Or should I jump to the intro first? I'm going to do one other little thing here. A little novelty. Everyone's doing these cool AI action figure pics. So I wanted to get on the action. I just don't know where they're getting it from. Is it from Facebook's Meta, or is it Grok, or is it ChatGPT? I wasn't really sure, so I asked Grok to whip one up for me. It's not the same because it's not in like the package. Like when I was a kid and I'd go buy G.I. Joe figures and they'd come with like little, whatever gun they had and what other accessories. That was always fun, and people are doing that. Looks interesting. I thought this was hilarious because it looks like, kind of zooming in on that picture, it's me from a picture I had in DC the day before January 6th. So it's got me holding a cup of coffee here, but it looks like right here, looks like a vape pen to me. So I'm shocked that it knows me so well. Yes, if you could just buy my action figure in stores, I would probably come with my water bottle and a vape pen and my GoPro and probably a pack of gum. There we go. I like this one because it's the green screen. You can't see it. That's the green one, and then we have the blue one here, so you can see it. Blue origin, blue shirt, blue background. Okay, well that's enough about me. Let's run the intro, and then let's get to the headline story. Okay, here we go. Letting it rip now. Boom. Okay, and welcome back. Here we go. I love this picture. Look the second one there too, where it's like I'm with the Outsiders in my little leather jacket motorcycle club gang or something like that. All right, the fun with AI, but let's get rolling on the I guess what I would call the headline story of the day. You can have your pick. But here we are. Ron Paul, here we go. The man standing at the edge of the Iran war cliff. Been going on for a little bit. His tensions will perhaps escalate. I know there was a meeting last weekend, but I'm not really sure what came out of that. I don't know. And it's one of these contentious issues that could be in the future, which could be a game changer, if you will, for the end of our civilization. If we get into a major world war, certainly don't think that would be necessary. And Ron Paul is warning about that very thing, because you never know with Israel and Iran. And at some point, things could perhaps escalate. And of course, we want to make sure that they don't develop a nuclear weapon in case they go crazy and decide to do something stupid, which would create a cascade effect and be very bad for everybody, including them. But hopefully that will never happen. And we can find a way to resolve things peacefully. And we actually covered this last week talking about it on Toxically Masculine Tuesday, which we will have a show tonight, by the way, with Mike Barra, Dr. Brooks Agnew, and hopefully Steve Dorn, the trail boss, will be back after a 2-week hiatus. But we discussed war with Iran. Maybe we can, defeat them culturally, and I'm sure the people would be happy to be liberated from their more fanatic fundamentalist group that's in charge over there. But regardless, we got millions of people around the world at the edge of their seats over the weekend, waiting to hear whether Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff's indirect talks with the Iranian foreign minister would ratchet down tensions, or would it break down and bring on a major Middle East war? So if it seems bizarre that the outcome of a meeting between the U.S. president's designated negotiator and a foreign government minister could determine whether we plunge into possibly our biggest war since World War II, yeah, that's because it is bizarre. Yeah. Because really, we didn't go to war with, Germany and Japan and all of these over a negotiator and a foreign government minister. You need a lot more people involved in that, and that's what Ron Paul is getting here. It's about Congress getting involved. And says, in fact, this is an example of why our founders were so determined to keep war-making authority out of the executive branch of government, because no one person, much less just one of his aides, should have the power to take the country to war. Okay, and that's why the Constitution places the authority to go to war exclusively in the hands of the representatives. It's in the legislative branch. It's the checks and balances. And unless the U.S. is under direct attack or is facing imminent direct attack, then we can kind of push the Constitution out of the side, off to the side in an emergency, and then that becomes pretty dangerous. But, those things, again, that would only be for an emergency scenario. It's up to Congress to deliberate and discuss and decide whether a conflict or potential conflict is worth bringing the weight of the U.S. military to bear. And, after the disaster with Iraq and Afghanistan, of course, Vietnam, so many other things, it's probably not good to get into another prolonged conflict with anybody. It seems to only benefit a very small group of people, while most of the rest of the regular rank and file suffer tremendously, depending on where you're at. So, anyway, we're currently seeing such another endless conflict brewing. This is Trump's decision to start bombing Yemen last month. They're trying to end the Houthi interference with Israeli Red Sea shipping. So, yes, there is violence. There is a lot of issues over there in the Middle East, but perhaps it's not really our business. But this is about, protecting our greatest ally over there at Israel. But is it really our problem? So starting a war with Iran is the furthest thing from the minds of American voters last November. Certainly, this is part of the reason people wanted to elect Trump, was to stop with this Ukrainian madness, stop funding Ukraine to go to war with Russia, and to not get involved with a fight over Israel. So, there is a strange logic here that to fulfill the promise of new wars, the U.S. must saber rattle around the world to intimidate others from crossing the White House. And that becomes this whole recycled phrase of peace through strength. But the real strength that it takes to make and keep peace is the strength to just walk away, the strength to stop meddling in conflicts that have nothing to do with the United States. And that is where Congress comes in, except they are not coming in. They are nowhere to be found. And that is kind of one of the fundamental problems that we have with this conflict and with their ally Israel. It's because they might be, poking around with their neighbors over there, and they have a lot of power and influence in Washington. And a lot of our politicians seem to be on some sort of AIPAC payroll, which is alarming. So I think we have to kind of rethink our relationship with our allies here. Maybe change some things fundamentally going forward. That's kind of what I'm thinking and what I was kind of contemplating the last couple of days is about perhaps maybe even ending sort of this Israeli alliance, if that's doable. And then there'd be, perhaps even by the end of the Trump administration, or getting AIPAC out of Washington, getting their influence away. Not overnight. This isn't some spiteful thing, some reactionary thing, but just kind of phase it out over time. This experiment with Israel, it's probably not worked out to many people's benefits over the years, which is alarming. Not that of anything. This is not anti-Semitic. This is not anti-Israel. It's not even anti-Netanyahu, who I'm not a big fan of. But it's like, what is our interest there? Now, if we could change anything on this planet, if we could go back in time and change something, I would think that the recreation of this state of Israel has been nothing but a sore spot for just about anybody. So unless you're in the military-industrial complex, unless you're maybe an Israeli citizen, but I mean, is this going to be our continued thing? Are we going to have to be dragged into every conflict with Israel just because they're our ally? Or at some point, are they going to be able to fend for themselves? And if they want to meddle with Iran, then that's their issue. But it shouldn't concern us. They shouldn't be starting fights over there. I'm not saying that they are in this case. And maybe it's not a good idea to have Iran having a nuclear weapons just because they have a fundamentalist regime in charge. So how do we pull out of this one? That is going to be interesting. And not to even just to crash down on all of the politicians that are on the AIPAC payroll. Certainly they're bought off, and we should be going for America first, not Israel first, which some of our politicians, they seem a little too eager to help out. So I don't know. Otherwise, I mean, I would like to hear it. Is there a reason why we should continue to, support our unwavering support of Israel? What, just indefinitely, forever? Are we tied to this experiment? Like, think about what the world would be like if they didn't create the state of Israel. Would it be better off? What benefit is it? I don't know. That's one of those curiosities. So perhaps maybe phase out AIPAC by the end of the Trump administration, and then let Israel take care of itself, I don't know, by 2030? What do they do? So anyway, that is a complicated issue. It's a controversial one, but I'm going to roll my sleeves up and jump into it, I suppose. So there we go. That's how we start off Tuesday, tax day, on the EP. Let's take a look at, here we got the health ranger. Not a big fan of Netanyahu either. He's admitting he has nuclear weapons. This has kind of been a not so secret thing. Not that I know, not that I've been an inspector over there, but it seems like, yeah, they've had nuclear weapons for a long time. They're not supposed to, but they do. And that means the USA violated federal law in providing them, and also violated international law, and Israel should be forced to denuclearize. I don't know. So what do we think of that? Not for making them vulnerable, but at least phasing out our security over a certain length of time, where after 4 or 5 years, you're on your own. Sorry, we've done as much as we can. We helped you create this country, gave you a safe spot, but we can't just protect you forever. And at some point, it's like a kid. You get out of the house and you're going to have to take care of yourself, and you're going to have to fight your own battles. You can't just keep asking. You can't just buy off our politicians, and you can't provoke war with your neighbors and expect us to come to your rescue every time. So I think that's how I would look at that. So I don't know. I don't speak the language here, but apparently this is something that Netanyahu admitted, perhaps inadvertently, that they have nuclear weapons. Okay, well, I don't know. So if they have them, should Iran have them too? I don't know. That's a tough one. We don't want to see things escalate. Maybe nobody should. But I don't know. At some point, maybe the technology will change and the nuclear weapons will just be a thing of the past. They won't be that effective. But here's another thing I'm going to point out, because I didn't get into there's new breaking news with, Russia, Putin trying to end this conflict with Ukraine. Doesn't seem like Zelensky's much on board with negotiations. So I didn't get into it too much. I'm not going to get into that particular issue here. But let's kind of cover this video because it's kind of comparable to what's going on with Israel.
But that's a war that should have never been allowed to start. And
okay, so he's talking about it's a war that never should have been allowed to start, and we'd be better off there if Russia didn't invade Ukraine. But that's a tough issue too, because in many ways it was Ukraine kind of and NATO meddling around and provoking the Russian bear, and they tried to handle things in regular negotiations. When that didn't work, they reluctantly invaded, but that was something that shouldn't have happened. So
Biden could have stopped it, and Zelensky could have stopped it, and Putin should have never started it. Everybody's to blame.
Have you spoken to President Zelensky, sir, about his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries?
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles. He's against. Listen,
all right, the volume's not real high, but it's almost over.
When you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size.
But that's the point here. So it's easy for Ukraine to continue to ask for handouts and more money. It's easy when you got your allies, because you're picking a fight, and then you're with somebody who's 20 times bigger than you, and then you're just expecting your allies to jump in and protect you. It's like, no, at some point you're on your own. You want to start the fight, then that's on you. And that's kind of the state of the world right now, with the United States as a military superpower getting dragged into things with Russia or Iran, which weren't our issue to begin with. So at what point do we say no? This one's saying, Zelensky's clock is about to strike midnight. He's not being very flexible on this. So if you're not going to be flexible, then you stand on your own. And without the United States, he's got no chance. It's whether Europe and NATO want to continue this, I don't know. What are they fighting for at this point? You're fighting over people that really don't want to be a part of your country in Ukraine. You're trying to keep people that are in Crimea and the Donbass that want to be with Russia. So just let Russia have them, redraw the lines, keep Ukraine out of NATO, and it seems like the problem should go away. Can we have a good negotiations with Iran? Can we tell Bibi to stop messing around over there? And that's one thing. Can we keep Iran out of a nuclear weapon? Can we help facilitate a better regime change? I don't know. But these could be catastrophic if things go bad. So it's really best to just try to avoid war, if all possible. But perhaps with the bad economy, that's always one of the issues, is that when things are failing, they can take you to war, because that's a way to grab money and power, perhaps. But hopefully it won't come to that. I don't know. Okay, well, does that cover the headline story for the day? I think so. Good enough. If not, I'll add to it on Thursday. But okay, nothing's breaking out. Nothing's too serious at this point, but we just want to keep it that way. All right, so let's move on. Getting back to the headlines, should the U.S. go to war with Iran to protect Israel? Absolutely not. What do we get out of it at this point? Can we protect the citizens? Or do we have to just offer security forever just because we're an ally? I don't agree with that. So phase it out. I'm all for it. Don't let BB, he's on his own if he does anything stupid. All right, so let's move on. We'll just stay on the kind of the same subject though with Israel and Palestine. Has the debate been settled? I would say yeah. I think things have changed dramatically over this last weekend. Ever since the Joe Rogan and the big showdown with Dave Smith and Douglas Murray, I think it's there's no question that the tide has turned. Here's an interesting tweet here from Cernovich, who was putting out bangers all weekend. He's really, I appreciate he's being pretty objective about this too. He said the pro-Israel side lost the left badly and irreparably. This is kind of into the neocon thing, but I'm going to kind of incorporate it in here. It didn't seem like, the pro-Israel side is winning hearts and minds. And I was critical. Last show I did on Thursday was a bit critical of Tim Pool having a secret meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, whether we can trust, having journalists being in secret meetings with war criminals. Maybe not such a good idea, but who knows? It doesn't have to be, but just, the optics were off. And it was something worth talking about, and it was quite newsworthy. But he's even said, and I've got one of his tweets up here coming up, that support for Israel is waning as we go forward into the future. The new generations aren't going to be as supportive. So at some point, support is gone. And what are they going to do? Are they going to stand alone and continue to occupy that region without protection of its allies, or will some of the people scatter and go wherever they want to go? That's interesting to see. How much longer can they keep controlling politicians through AIPAC money? So it's run its course, and it might be time to end this phase of the show. So, all right, what else? Yeah, go on Joe Rogan, throw a tantrum, finger wag, insult his audience, and him for inviting undesirables, call everyone anti-Semites. Great job, guys. And yeah, it speaks not only to Douglas Murray, but also Sam Harris. There's been a lot of great tweets. I don't even know if I have them all up here because there's so many. This was a huge story over the weekend. Here's one from David Pivtoric. He says, Joe Rogan must have recorded and put out two completely different podcasts that he did with Murray and Smith. That's the only way to explain the takes that he's seeing on his timeline. And I kind of feel the same way. Like, I've been watching all the clips too. I mean, it's clear. I mean, yeah, you can be pro-Israel. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lack of argument. What is our benefit for continuing this alliance? What are people saying? I mean, there is no argument anymore. It's hard to really root for the pro-Israel side. Like, they've got a right to exist. They don't have a right to, commit genocide against their neighbors. Yeah, what happened on October 7th was awful, horrible. Sure, Hamas should be condemned and wiped off the face of the earth. Sure, but does that justify the occupation there? Does that justify the basically state of apartheid there? Does that justify, carpet bombing innocent women and children? Does that justify all of the war crimes and atrocities that I'm seeing all the time? They don't really have much to say anymore. So I think the tide has definitely turned. And it's weird. There's no argument. So all it was Douglas Murray going, and certainly was this intellectual from England, and just going over and over about how Dave Smith's not an expert, and there's got to be experts on, and Dave was never in Israel, but Murray was, but then he was given, he's a big ally, and he's written books, and he was given the red carpet treatment, and maybe he's not been to Gaza. It's an interesting battle. And of course, with this supposed intellectual class of experts, trying to tell Joe Rogan who he can and cannot have on his show, and them, getting destroyed by a sharp guy like Dave Smith, who's just, keeping it real and doing common sense. Truth wins in the end. And they're running out of truth on the Israel side. It's just no longer this war drums and, we just have to protect Israel. They're our greatest ally, blah, blah, blah. Okay, why? What is the substance now? How do we continue to play this? Here's another one. It says, after listening to the Dave Smith versus Murray debate, I'm not sure if I'm more embarrassed for Murray or for the people who actually think he made a coherent argument. Yeah, another good point. Well, what is the argument? What is their justification for continuing this alliance? Anything? Bueller? There's another one. Says people who think Douglas Murray won that debate against Smith shouldn't be allowed to vote. Might be a little over the top, but I get it. It's like, what are they looking at? I get it. You can be pro-Israel, but at some point you got to realize you're standing on thin ice. There's no, I don't know. You're gonna have a hard time winning hearts and minds to just support you. It's kind of like dogma. So it's more of a religious debate than it is anything else. You look at the facts. And it gets harder and harder to defend what Israel is doing. We can check out some of these clips here. I've got a few. Here's one. Here's one of the bigger ones. Dave?
I do also think that one of the bigger, kind of the bigger picture dynamics to all of this is that we have, at least since 9/11, been in a state of perpetual war. And all of these wars have been disasters. They have been so many lies involved in selling all of them. I mean, the whole Iraq war, the whole war in Afghanistan, just lying the whole way through. I mean, I remember literally having conversations with Green Berets in the middle of the war in Afghanistan, and they're like, George W. Bush is telling you that the army we're building up there is really successful. This thing's going to fall in a week without us. And then all through the Obama administration, it's just like lie after lie after lie with disastrous wars. And so this does create a fertile ground for people to say,
yeah, that's also a big opium grab. Now, the Taliban, I think they wiped out like 90% of their opium. And then the U.S. was like, we got to invade over there. Well, let's not get too far down the rabbit hole of conspiracies. But the point is, the occupation of Afghanistan was a disaster. Unless you're a warmongering neocon, unless you're benefiting from the military-industrial complex, what was our benefit there for the average person? How about Iraq? Oh, it was weapons of mass destruction, but there weren't any weapons of mass destruction. They tried to get us involved with Syria. They said Assad was gassing his own people. That turned out to be a lie. Oh, we chased him out. How's that working out? Now the worst of the worst radical jihadists have taken over. They're beheading Christians. We saw the same thing with Libya. Say what you want, Gaddafi wasn't nearly as bad as the person that they made him out to be. And certainly that Libya has turned into an absolute hellhole since they allowed that power vacuum to be filled with radical jihadists there too. Or Iraq, I mean, has anything benefited us with these with meddling in these foreign conflicts? No. So it's good on Dave here for pointing that out. So now we're just going to take Bibi's word for it. We got to get involved with some conflict with Iran. How's that going to go? And they're a much more formidable foe. Probably not good.
I wonder if they were lying about all these wars.
Sure.
Again, I'm not really trying to argue with you about World War II. I'd rather argue about these wars
ground.
today.
I think the interesting question is whether you're busy watering it.
Well, should you not talk about mistakes that were made overall?
Absolutely.
Okay, you should.
Absolutely.
Right.
I am all for going back and looking at mistakes.
So what is your argument then?
It's a very weird thing to go back, zone in on a man, say this one thing is a mistake and should characterize him, and you ignore everything else.
You're taking him out of context when you're talking about Darrow, who's done, what was it, 30 plus hours?
So what? 30 plus hours of podcasting. You do that in a week. I mean,
but it's a very different thing.
He's not doing a podcast like talking to people.
Okay, nor is he doing scholarly work, nor is he working in the archives, clearly. Come on. I mean, he is not the historian of our era.
He's not claiming to be.
Look, it's the problem. A lot of these experts can be, it's one thing, they have credibility, but at the same time, they could also be indoctrinated with the kind of information that they're actually receiving. So in the event, it's the battleground of ideas, and the truth, whoever's got the better ideas wins. It doesn't matter whether you're a scholar and you're an expert at something, or you've got Dave Smith who can just cut through it with logic and common sense. And they don't deal with that well. And so when they find themselves in these indefensible positions, instead of admitting, oh, maybe there's a point, or maybe I'm wrong. No, now it's just to criticize Joe for even having them on. So I know I had a great tweet. I don't know if it was from Clint Russell. He had a lot of bangers there too, talking about this issue with the supposed expert class. But I'm already forgetting it. So let me just move on. Let's get to another post here while I regather my thoughts. So here's Dave Smith. Well, Dave Smith giving his thoughts on the Douglas Murray debate, and I'll go see if I can find this tweet. So he started out with 40-minute struggle session for Rogan that contained probably the longest stretched logical fallacy he's ever seen anybody open a debate with. Naked appeal to authority. Let's check this out.
Debates where the reaction is overwhelmingly that I won the debate. In this particular case, it's just that he lost it. Like, it wasn't even that I beat him in the debate. He started out with a 40-minute struggle session for Joe Rogan that just contained probably the longest stretched logical fallacy I've ever seen anyone open a debate with. Just a naked appeal to authority, completely unclear with what he was saying. He came in, so in this struggle session with Joe Rogan, I couldn't make this up. This is barely before I presented any thought or argument or opinion. I think it was before that. He comes in with this long that is an appeal to authority, an appeal to expertise. You're having these non-experts talk about issues that experts should talk about. And I'm not saying they should be censored, and I'm not saying they shouldn't talk about it, but they're talking about it and they're acting like they're experts. How are they acting like they're experts? Because they're talking about it. And when they're talking about it, it was just the most ridiculous argument.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good points there. And it is weird watching the people defend Israel on so many of these things, and they just kind of rehearse the same talking points. So he doesn't even want to talk about the actual issues going on because he knows that he's in a weak position. So it's always like, well, they have a right to exist. Yeah, they have a right to defend themselves. Hamas shouldn't have attacked them. It's all, it's always the same few talking points that they go over constantly, and that's it. And then there's the supposed experts. So it's bizarre. And Dave Smith has done a tremendous job. He's pretty much just taking down all of these supposed experts on this particular subject, including Douglas Murray, who was supposed to be credible. He was supposed to, and he is a smart guy, but it is a very tough position at this point to continue to justify the actions of Israel against Palestine. That does not mean that I am pro-Palestine or pro-Hamas. Absolutely not. I just want to see peace. I just want to see an end to all of this. This has not been good for us, and it needs to stop. Here's the tweet I was thinking of. Here's from Clint Russell, who's a prominent libertarian, also a talk show host. And he had a lot of bangers this week too. Very vocal on this issue. He says it seems increasingly obvious that the Sam Harris, Douglas Murray, the James Lindsay, and others, this intellectual class, are attempting to just damage Joe Rogan's reputation by challenging his guest selection process. See, that's how they can win the debate, is by not having to debate. He'll just come on as an expert and just spew the propaganda and talking points. He also says it's ironic because all three of them would be much less well known if Joe hadn't had them on his show so many times. So between, I guess, those three guys, they were on his show 17 times. But then if Joe decides, hey, well, why don't I hear what Dave Smith's got to say on this? And now, he's just a comedian. He's not an expert like us. So Clint's saying, I like the diversity of Joe's guests, and I actually like it when he has guests I disagree with. Me too. I like to hear different perspectives. But if you're on the losing side of an argument, then you don't. You want to be in your echo chamber. You want people to, prop you up and praise you for being an expert. You don't want to defend indefensible positions. So Clint says it allows me to understand a worldview different than my own. I've learned a lot from the deep dives. And if he was going to critique his guest list at all, his say to make is to not host people that are out to destroy you. Yeah, see, and I would agree here too. Like, if Joe Rogan wants to have Sam Harris or, Flint Dibble or Douglas Murray on the show, I don't go and bitch about that. No, he shouldn't even have those guys on there. Like, yeah, they're allowed to have their perspective. And maybe we'll find out if they're telling the truth or whether they're wrong. I mean, I don't know. I'm happy to have my mind changed, but unfortunately, it seems that most people are, especially the expert class, who does not like to be challenged by anything. Okay, let's move on. Here's an alarming one from Douglas Murray. He says, Western civilization could not survive the destruction of the Jewish state because it would be, among much else, the cutting away of the whole tree we're on, and Western civilization would die. This is actually where I stopped, and I haven't actually even finished this particular clip. I'm just curious. I want to get live reaction just to see what he's saying here. This is a sit-down interview that he had with Benny Boy Shapiro on whatever program they were on, but he was, glowingly talking about Israel, as he often does, and the neoconservative movement, which is strange because he's a British citizen. But anyway, let's see why he thinks Western civilization could not survive without Israel.
Western civilization could not survive the destruction of the Jewish state because it would be, among much else, the cutting away of the whole tree that we're on. And
really? So if we had not created the Israel state, and there was no actual just homeland for just specifically people that were of one religion, I don't know. I don't get this argument at all. But let's continue. Maybe I got to hear more.
Western civilization would die. So I regard the existential threat
Benny seems to agree
against the Jewish people to not just be about the Jewish people. It matters deeply to me that it is about the Jewish people. But it also matters to me because it's about America. Could America survive if the Jewish people were no more on its watch, or everybody was forcibly deported from the Holy Land? Come on. Of course not.
Okay, why is that? Now, again, I talked about this a little earlier. Would the world be better off if we had not created the nation state of Israel? We go back into the 40s and say no. I mean, especially knowing what I know now, it's easy to go back and, it's one thing after the awful atrocities that happened in World War II and said, hey, let's give these guys a chance to run their own country. And that's cool. They can be secure. We'll provide security for a while and get them off the ground, help them off their feet, and they can build. And they've done a tremendous job building up that country. There's no doubt about that. But there's always issues going on with their neighbors, and they treat the Palestinians as second-class citizens. They've occupied. They've committed atrocities. I can't just sit there and defend everything they do. It's not right. So would we be better off? I think, yeah. If there was no Israel, if we just had all the Jews living happily wherever they wanted to, America, and they could move here, be my neighbor. I don't care about that. I just don't want to continue supporting this nation that can continually, stirring up trouble, and that we're supposed to be rescued. Oh, we're our allies, and they're buying off politicians. Like, that's wrong. That's where I draw the line. I don't care. It's not anti-Semitism. I don't care about the religion. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's just a constant sore spot for everybody. It's not just America. It's everybody around the world is constantly affected by this meddling. It's just enough. I would love to see if we could just end our security agreement, give it like 5 years, and those people can go wherever they want. And we should be able to help them if that's what they want to do. But if they want to stay in Israel, then they're on their own. They can't rely on us for help. They sure as shit ain't going to start anything, and that we're supposed to get involved. But anyway, let's keep.
Could the isolationists bear the repercussions of that across the Middle East and elsewhere? Of course not. So I find this blitheness and the frivolity of it to be absolutely intolerable among the critics on the right.
One of the things that...
He's not presenting an argument to me. He's just, kissing up to Benny Boy.
That's been so amazing about all of this is just the sense that the West has lost its moorings. I mean, I was more disturbed, from a sort of Jewish perspective as a Jew. Tragedies happen to the Jews, terrorist attacks happen to Jews, slaughters happen to Jews. This is sort of the story of Jewish history. But the idea that you have hundreds of thousands of Westerners who are marching in solidarity with the murderers, that was on some level more disturbing to me than the actual massacre itself. Certainly not in terms of the actual amount of human suffering and the horrifying evil and barbarity of it. But in terms of the threat to the civilization as a whole, it seems to me that one of the things that we're seeing in terms of this sort of right-wing backlash that's now happening in Europe, it's very much of a piece with that. It's very much Europe and I'm hoping America saying, if we don't have any values for us to rely upon, then the people who are marching through the streets are going to end up running this place.
Okay, I don't know. Perhaps I'm not following that very well, but again, I think this kind of plays into that. They don't really have much of an argument here. Why should we continue supporting this? I don't know. So let's take a look at, and maybe Ben Shapiro here. Somebody's Liam McCollum here and saying, hey, why don't we get Ben Shapiro back? He's been on Joe Rogan before. And then he can debate. It's kind of like the boss level, right? Comic Dave Smith, because he's pretty much been, as far as I'm concerned, he's destroying everybody in his path. Douglas Murray was nothing. And he's not even praising himself. He's just saying Douglas Murray, I didn't win. Douglas Murray just didn't have anything to bring to the table. He lost. Because clearly he lost. There was not one thing, I don't think, that he was said that you could make an argument. Oh, yeah, well, Douglas Murray made a great point about this, and this is why we should continue to support Israel indefinitely for whatever they do. No. So maybe Benny Boy can step up. But I have a feeling it's just going to be more of the same. We have a right to exist. We have a right to defend ourselves. We have, they attacked first or whatever. Okay, we'll keep going.
About this, because I would love to see the counterpoints that aren't available to me that I don't understand. I would love to see someone.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to do that.
I think it would be good for everybody because I've learned a lot just here talking to you about this.
I'll take you on a visit also. You should go with some of the...
No.
Oh, look at Benny Boy. Yeah, that's what they're saying. They go and visit. Yeah, go and visit Joe, because then he's going to get they're going to roll out the red carpet treatment for him. And they're going to show him all the sides. They're going to present it in a way where he's going to love it, and he's not going to see the other side. So that's how they're going to shape his opinion on that. It'd be very different if Joe Rogan was not a famous person and he just went and visited, spent a week in Israel and spent a week with the Palestinians in Gaza. You're going to get a much different perspective rather than the Douglas Murray treatment. All right, keep going.
You don't want to go? It's fine.
Anyway, Barry Weiss tried to get me to go too. I'm like, listen, you Jews are always trying to get me to go to your motherland. Settle down.
Right now, you have to come to Florida. I'll get to Florida first.
I know it's the motherland. This is the motherland for barbecue.
Okay, well, let's move on. Here's that tweet I alluded to earlier. It's from Tim Pool. I don't see how Israel maintains U.S. support with the current actions in the U.S. and the sweeping change among Gen Z. In 10 years, U.S. support for Israel is in question, and in 20, it's gone. Completely agree. It's an aging demographic. The pro-Fox crowd. Fox News is 100% pro-Israel shamelessly. So what are they going to do when you're 10, 20 years? Your hardcore Israel supporters that have had that propaganda just slammed into their heads through Limbaugh and Fox News and conservative media. Once that's gone, what are they going to do? So that might be something that we have to have that big talk about. And I don't want any violence to happen to anybody, but they might have to start considering maybe relocating. They can if they want. They just can't, can't depend on us anymore. It's got to stop. Here is video from Candace Owens, obviously critical, but she's saying exactly what I'm thinking. Look at your country. Look at your streets. Is your country cleaner? Is your country better for having fought Israel's wars for decades? Is this alliance good for us, the average American? How does this benefit us?
And you're going to get exposed. I'm telling you, one by one, you're going to get exposed because you're pissing me off now, okay? I spent all of 2024 having to fight you guys. You're like disgusting little goblins. You operate all in the dark. You lie. It's you lie like some people breathe. Genuinely, these people lie like I breathe. It's just natural. It's just like their lungs expand.
Okay, I'm not gonna feed into that. I didn't even see this clip. I thought I was gonna go more on the quote, but I'll just go by what she's saying. Is this beneficial for us? No. It's good for the warmongers. It's good for Israel. It's good for the people that support Zionism and what have you. But for 99% of the rest of the world, this has not been a good idea. This has not been good for any of us. So let's stop. Let's not go into war with Iran just because we're trying to protect our ally Israel. And let's phase out AIPAC's control over the United States and start to kind of figure out who in the Washington class, are they Israel first or America first? So phase out AIPAC by the end of this Trump administration. Then they should be classified as foreign. They should not be allowed to basically bribe our politicians. You got a few more years. We should just kind of scale it down, expose it, scale it down, and then it's done. And if people are worried about security, hey, I don't care. Maybe we can help bring some people here. I don't care. I don't want them to be, unsafe or be stranded out by themselves. But they'll have years and years of notice. So let's start planning the phase out of this Israeli experiment. Okay, well, let's move on to another controversial issue. All right, well, that was fun. Let's, where's my headlines here? The debate has been settled with Israel-Palestine. Yes. I mean, let Ben Shapiro go against Dave Smith. I'm down to see that, but the Douglas Murray thing was a disaster for that side. Not because he's dumb, it's an indefensible position. So it seems like it's settled, and now it's time to change things. All right, so let's move on. We've got Karmelo Anthony case. Is this like OJ for this generation? Here it is. And it's, of course, been a hot story for a week or so. I just don't want to jump to conclusions because I don't know. And these are kind of one of these little like media traps where I don't want to pick the wrong side here. Or I don't want to start even getting involved with the media as far as, oh, they only talk about, white on black crime, but then they completely ignore black on white crime. And that is true. I just don't want to pile on and feed into that. Wait till the facts come out. And I don't think we have the video evidence yet. I think there is some. This is an ugly case. This is a bad on our civilization here. We got our own mess to clean up here in the United States. We've still got some of these racially motivated hate attacks. So unfortunately, we got this Karmelo Anthony, the black guy on the left, who stabbed Austin Metcalf here on the right, the white man, to death. This could be like the O.J. Simpson case all over again. Oh, I remember that quite well. I was in high school when the news broke, and this was kind of it was similar to this. Man, they show this old picture. This was kind of very much what it was like. It seemed like everybody and their brother knew that O.J. was guilty. But then when he got off, you saw black people celebrating and white people were like stunned. But it was just kind of like, they had felt like they were so mistreated and that the legal system was so highly against them that they were happy to take a victory. And I get it and whatever. I'm not getting into the whole racial charge stuff. I understand that they do get targeted, and it has been unfair. But then we're celebrating clearly somebody guilty getting off the hook, which was not good. So that was a weird one to sit through. I guess karma finally caught up to Simpson at some point, but even the jury knew that it was obvious that he committed murder, but they set him free. And this is partly because of the Rodney King stuff. And no doubt they were treated terribly by police. Somewhat second-class citizens here in the States, like Palestine. But I don't know if this is justified. But it's turning into this with this next case. Well, let's run this video clip and I'll get into more.
Do you think that they're members of the jury that voted to acquit OJ because of Rodney King?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
How many of you think felt that way?
Oh, probably 90% of them.
90%?
Oh, that's another one that's tough too, because Rodney King was like driving through a residential neighborhood at high speed, putting people in danger, high on crack. He probably deserved to get his ass kicked by the cops. Not to say that there aren't terrible white cops who abuse black people, or racial profiling, certainly the case on a lot of things. Those are two awful examples. Or was it Freddie Blake in Wisconsin that led to the Rittenhouse thing? This is another one. Some of these guys are not good people. And O.J. Simpson definitely murdered Nicole Brown, his wife. And this is another one of these tough, controversial issues I've got to jump into. But here is, this one's shaping up to be another example here. So we got a very divisive issue by race. Now, we've seen so many, or even Tim Pool and the Michael Brown case in St. Louis. So we got Karmelo Anthony, who stabbed Austin to death, is now safe at home. He's been released so far. We'll see how the trial plays out. But he says this moment is a reminder that community united can never be divided. The journey ahead is long, but today we celebrate a victory for justice, for family, and for the power of people coming together to protect our youth. That's another one I'm just going to disagree with. We'll wait and see what happens with the video. We had Judge Angela Tucker approve the reduction of Karmelo Anthony's bond from $1 million. Slashed it down 75% to $250,000 in the murder of Austin Metcalf, which wasn't a problem because they had over $400,000 in donations for supporting Karmelo, as though he was the innocent man who was wrongfully accused. But he murdered a guy. He stabbed him. And it's very unclear. I mean, I guess we'll have to see how the trial plan plays out. But I mean, with the OJ trial, we saw how that played out. Are they going to let him off just simply because of the color of his skin? I don't know. It's weird how things have changed. The justice system. So yes, $400,000 in donations, maybe more. They're buying a new home and they're hiring security amongst the racist threats. But yeah, there's horrible racist assholes on the white side too. I mean, it's hard to pick sides anymore. Just observing the end of our civilization. So Anthony was in court. He faces first-degree murder charge for the killing of Austin Metcalf after being stabbed in the heart at a track meet. This is the sporting event. The running track, so it's unclear. Why is he carrying a knife? And was he actually fighting in self-defense? I think the idea is that he was in a spot that he wasn't supposed to be in. Austin, the white guy, came over and said, hey, you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to be sitting here. And then Karmelo allegedly said something like, yeah, why don't you find out, or, you're going to do something about it, or lay a hand on me and find out what happens. And that kind of provoked Austin, and then Karmelo stabbed him. So is he actually fighting in self-defense? I mean, it's a frickin' track meet. It wasn't like they were both, at a bar somewhere arguing because they were doing shots and then betting on a game of pool, and things got out of control and one person stabbed the other one. It's a frickin' track meet in the middle of the day. Why are you carrying a knife? And it's like, if you're going to try to bait someone, hey, wait and see what happens. Oh, okay, tough guy. Like, you're going to take a swing at him. Okay, fine. Go take a swing at him. But you actually took a knife, and you, instead of just stabbing him, somewhere maybe where it would have killed him, you stabbed him in the heart. So people are donating to this. I mean, again, all the facts aren't out. We'll have to see the video footage. I mean, this is seems to be unjustifiable no matter what. Right? What was Austin really going to do? If you're not in that, you're in some area where you're not and you feel disrespected, okay, he's going to tell you to leave and you feel stupid, okay. You throw a punch or maybe there's a couple shoves. But you don't just pull out a knife and just stab somebody in the heart immediately. That's dangerous. So I don't know. This guy seems like he should be locked up. But again, this is one of these racially, emotionally charged things that I try to avoid. But now it's becoming, it's time to pick a side, I suppose. So we'll see how they try to spin it. Because if it is self-defense, you could justifiably stab somebody. But it's like you're trying to provoke them to do something just so you can stab somebody. That's not going to be good. Okay. Here's a tweet from Alt Market saying if the roles were reversed, the courts would be in fear of national unrest over such a decision. Yeah, if things were changed, there would be national outrage and people would be burning down their neighborhoods. Oh my God. White guy stabbed a black man in the heart. It's a racially motivated attack. Oh my God, there it is again. Another one. So I don't know. Yeah, so the Anthony's family, $400,000 on their give, send, go, moving into a new home. I don't know. Yeah, he deserves security. We want to see what happens. We want justice to be served. But there's a lot more to this. Guess we'll have to find out. Hopefully we'll release that footage and we'll get more. Take it from there. I don't know when the trial's going to start. It could be a while. But all right, let's move on. We're about at the hour and 6 minute mark. I've got a few more stories to go to. Got the Trump administration. Should they rescue Abrego Garcia? Well, let's take a look at the latest info on that one. Got El Salvador's President Bukele snubbing the Obama judge and saying that he won't return alleged MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the United States. So this has been a hot topic in the news for the last week or two, as Trump is deporting violent criminal gang members who he is labeled as domestic terrorists, and he sent them to El Salvador to be stored in the the Supermax prison, CCOT, with all of the other Tren de Aragua and MS-13 gang members that have been removed from the streets of El Salvador. But one guy may have been innocent. And, I'm okay with it. If somebody is innocent, then they should make every effort to go, oh, we made an administrative error. This was wrong. And let's try to get him back out. Now, the problem is that technically he was a citizen of El Salvador, where he was born and raised, and he had some kind of an asylum. He had applied for America. He had been in this country for a long time, and out of protection. We couldn't deport him because it would have been a threat on his life. I don't know if he was actually a gang member or not. Apparently, this all came out of some government informant who said that he was MS-13 and that he was in a region of like New York or something where he had never been. So it could have been a mistaken identity. But maybe he had some affiliation with MS-13 because there was a rival gang that would have killed him if he was in El Salvador. So they decided we're going to keep him in the United States because if we send him to El Salvador, he's going to get killed by these rival gang members. But now those rival gang members are all locked up in that Supermax prison. But now he's in the Supermax prison. And we can't send him back to the United States because technically he's a Salvadoran citizen. So hopefully they'll just straighten out this mess if he's an innocent man and let him go. That's all we can do at this point. I don't know how much we want to get into the weeds with this one. You had a little showdown here with Stephen Miller and Secretary of State Rubio kind of confronting what they call the media lies. But I think it's a very complicated situation to try to, for this particular guy, whether he's actually MS-13 or not. And he's been in the country a long time. He's got I don't know if he's married with a kid, and he hasn't been involved in any criminal activities since he's been here. I don't know. It's unfortunately, it is convoluted like that. But if he's an innocent man, they need to remove him out of the CCOT. Now, maybe he doesn't come back to the United States, but maybe he can continue to live in peace in El Salvador, and he won't be under threat from the rival gang members, as they're going to be locked up for life. But Democrats definitely are trying to take this opportunity, saying, they're worried that it can happen to U.S. citizens. That's going to be a bit of a stretch, but they are involved with the fear-mongering. So here's Hakeem Jeffries threatening the Trump administration to bring back this illegal alien, or else they're going to hold Marco Rubio and Pam Bondi in contempt. But nothing they can do, because he's not a U.S. citizen. So if Bukele seems like a good guy. And if he's a good guy, he's going to do the right thing and release this guy. That's all I can hope for, is that we find out exactly if he's a gang guy or not, and may justice prevail. And if he's innocent, let him go. Alrighty. Says Abrego, here's Cenk Uygur is not an MS-13. So you're hearing strong positions from both sides. Whether it's Stephen Miller says yes he is, Cenk is saying he's not, and from the only intel I've heard about this is that it was perhaps mistaken identity from an informant who said that he was MS-13, but then he wasn't with the chapter that he said he was. So I don't know. All right, but we'll move on. Okay, what else do I have? Okay, so Trump administration, should they rescue Abrego Garcia? They can't. At this point, it would be considered kidnapping. Can if they want to. All right. Next, Bill Maher shouldn't be praised for the Trump turnaround. So this is out of the Federalist. Because he's being applauded this week. He had his show, I don't know if it was Friday night, real time, and he met Bill Maher, the big rival, big critic of Trump over years. Said a lot of terrible things about him, but is occasionally a voice of reason, and a good one. There's not very many on the left anymore. It's usually Jon Stewart and occasionally Bill Maher that kind of try to keep the leftists in reality. And some people were critical. I thought it was great. I love what I saw from Bill Maher. I thought it was great that he was able to meet with Trump and humanize him and be honest about it. And the left is mad at him for just daring to meet with Trump. And then some are also criticizing him for now you shouldn't be criticized now, or you shouldn't be applauded for taking 10 years to realize that Trump isn't the worst thing since the Fuhrer. But I'm going to disagree here. I think it's amazing. I think you do the right thing in the end. It would be wrong if he continued to say, "Oh, Trump is bad," or "I'm not going to meet with him." No, it's time for the sides to have a talk. And the problem with the left is they don't want to engage, much like the pro-Israel crowd. They don't want to engage because they're not in a good standing on the argument. And so they shun the pro-Trump people, and they continue to just stay in their own echo chamber, and they continue to just get more and more unhinged. So it's wild. And Maher had a interesting exchange with another leftist on the show for that, like he wasn't supposed to even meet with Trump. Anyway, let's get to a Vigilant Fox article here, as that was his big monologue and the theme for this show. So they had a mutual friend, Kid Rock. Maher got invited to the White House and said that Trump is different than he expected. So why don't we run some of this clip?
As you know, 12 days ago, I had dinner with President Trump, a dinner that was set up by my friend Kid Rock, because we share a belief that there's got to be something better than hurling insults from 3,000 miles away. And let me first say that to all the people who treated this like it was some kind of summit meeting, you're ridiculous. Like I was going to sign a treaty or something. I have no power. I'm a fucking comedian, and he's the most powerful leader in the world. I'm not the leader of anything, except maybe a contingent of centrist-minded people who think there's got to be a better way of running this country than hating each other every minute. So
that's huge right there. Leftists are out like freaking out. They're unhinged. They got TDS. They're king swastikas and people's Teslas. And you've got Bill Maher being a reasonable human being, classic American. We can disagree on some of the issues, but we should still all be American and all be generally on the same page and just be able to have civil discourse. This is great.
thank you. So meet up in person. Maybe it'll be different. Spoiler alert, it was. First good sign, before I left for the Capitol, I had my staff collect and print out this list of almost 60 different insulting epithets that the president had said about me. Things like stupid, dummy, lowlife dummy, sleazebag, sick, sad, stone cold crazy. Really a dumb guy, fired like a dog, his show is dead. There's 60. I brought this to the White House because I wanted him to sign it, which he did. Which he did with good humor. And I know as I say that, millions of liberal sphincters just tightened. Oh my God, Bill, are you going to say something nice about him? What I'm going to do is report exactly what happened. You decide what you think about it. And if that's not enough pure Trump hate for you, I don't give a fuck.
Love it. Exactly how it should be done. Most leftists, again, they want to stick to their echo chamber. It's just hate Trump 24/7. Just irrational hatred. And so Maher was the bigger man and realized that, a lot of that stuff was just hype. Trump's a genuine guy.
And he gave me a bunch of hats, but he didn't ask me to take a picture in one, which I appreciated. The guy I met is not the person who the night before the dinner shit-tweeted a bunch of nasty crap about how he thought this dinner was a bad idea and what a deranged asshole I was. I read it and thought, oh, what a lovely way to welcome someone to your house. But when I got there, that guy wasn't living there. Now, does Trump want respect? Of course, who doesn't? My friend said to me, what are you going to wear to the White House? I said, I don't know, but I'm not going to dress like Zelensky, I'll tell you that. But, okay. Just for starters, he laughs. I've never seen him laugh in public, but he does, including at himself. And it's not fake. Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it. And I thank you for them.
Okay, let's keep going.
At one point, we were walking through it is an amazing tour of the whole house. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020.
That's how you extend the olive branch. You take one of your bigger critics and you just give them a whole tour of the White House. And you talk like adults.
election, because I know he used the word lost, and I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off. He'll just go on. Not at all. I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who don't really listen because they just want to get to their next thing, people whose response to things you say just doesn't track, like, what? None of that with him. And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this?
Okay. Anyway, so he humanized Trump. It's not the monster the left wants you to believe he is. And I think that's great for America. I'm really proud of Bill, and I'm proud of Trump. And hopefully more people can have these conversations. So it's been a very divisive time. A lot of it was just completely unnecessary. It was wild seeing how many people just became unraveled and unhinged over the last 10 years that I've been following politics. Just hate Trump as this, brash outsider. But a lot of it was just grossly exaggerated. So good on Bill. I won't play more. I know most of you guys have already seen all the clips already. It's kind of old news at this point, but I definitely wanted to touch on it. Wasn't that many bombshell things going on today anyway, so there we go. Here's my perspective on that. And we'll move on. I got a couple more quick ones, and then we'll call it a day. About 9 minutes left, 2 stories, a little lightning round here. There's still some unhinged people out there, including the Blue Anon. We got James Carville, the old dinosaur. They're in full panic mode over its absurd conspiracy that Trump will declare martial law on April 20th. That would be Easter this year on Sunday. I don't know what they're thinking there. But yeah, they've fled to their own echo chamber. They can't have reasonable conversations anymore. They can't have civil discourse on Twitter. So now they're on Blue Sky. And they're panicking, melting down. It's an over a tinfoil hat level conspiracy that Trump is preparing to declare martial law on Easter Sunday. Yeah, it's people that spent years mocking QAnon are now pushing full-blown Blue Anon. And this came out of James Carville this time. Oh, there's a lot of horrible ads on this article. Let's move on to the next one. Freaking out. Here's James Carville.
He does not understand. He is not loyal to the United States of America. I've said it before.
That is insane. So I don't know. He's in his echo chamber, and this is what he wants to believe, that somehow he doesn't like America, and he's trying to bring the country down.
Say it again. Trump does not like the United States. He doesn't like our laws.
Are you talking about?
He doesn't like our Constitution.
Doesn't like our laws and our Constitution. Everything he's saying is just total wild conspiracy bullshit.
He doesn't like our people. He calls them fat. He calls them poorly educated, slobs, stupid. And he is...
That's how you justify that Trump is the bad guy. You just make up bullshit in your head that you believe that Trump is the bad guy. And then you sound like a fucking clown when you're coming out saying this stuff.
In the midst of what I believe, I've said, and continue to believe even strongly every day, we're in the midst of a collapse. And if you look at the markets, if you look at all across the board, the political collapse, there's fighting, look what happened in Wisconsin, look what's going on with all of the Musk and the craziness. And what I think, if he sees
Musk and the craziness. Oh my goodness.
himself going down, he's going to try to take the whole country with him.
Absolutely.
Oh wow! He's convinced he's going to deliberately try to take the whole country down. And this is why they stick in their echo chamber. But we can still see the echo chamber. Now we can expose this for the rest of the world to see and go, what are you talking about? They don't want pushback. He deserves to get pushed back right here. But he's just with somebody that's going to agree with him. I don't know how he can even come up with this stuff.
He does not understand. He is not loyal to the United States of America.
Then who is he loyal to, James? Who are you loyal to?
He does not like this country.
Lies after lies after lies.
He criticizes it all the time. He has affection.
Make America great again. You're an idiot.
For dictators. He has affection for authoritarianism. And you're so correct to be concerned about this. And it's getting worse by the day. It is not going to stop getting worse. And we had to be a high alert. For he's going to try anything he can, and to help himself, of course. But I believe the man genuinely, fundamentally wants to hurt the country.
He believes genuinely that he wants to hurt the country, but then you kind of see the body language as he's just kind of looking away, like he doesn't really believe the bullshit coming out of his mouth. He just wants you to believe that. And then he's the good guy again, right? He's the resistance, fighting against this wild authoritarian that hates this country. Well, it's not based in reality. Okay, well, but yeah, there's a rumor going around of a plan to declare martial law on April 20th. And here's one that says Trump just ordered the military to take control of the federal lands along the southern border. Okay, border protection, right? And here's ways to prepare for martial law, but even they say in case it ever happens. But yeah, they're panicking now over just manufactured BS from their own side. That's all they've got. Or you've got Bill Maher, who actually just met and said, okay, no, a lot of the stuff that I believed things were going to be a certain way, and they weren't. So good on him. All right. But I mean, speaking of which, start policing your own side, because it seems like it's the left that's totally lost it. They're unhinged. They're, Tesla terrorism. You've got an arson suspect who planned on beating a Democrat governor, Josh Shapiro, in Pennsylvania, firebombed his place with Molotov cocktails. Instead, he was going to try to beat him with a hammer if he saw him. That's a leftist there for you. We got media working overdrive to distort the politics of the alleged arsonist who burned down the governor's mansion. So yes, another radical Antifa supporting leftist, or BLM and socialist, going after his own. You got AG Pam Bondi seeking 40 years in prison for this domestic terrorist who firebombed a Tesla dealership and the GOP's New Mexico headquarters. Now this guy looks normal and healthy. The blue lipstick. Okay, yeah. This is the modern left. The ones that have turned into domestic terrorists. The regressive left. Okay. Finally, last story of the day. Bezos, what was the headline for it? The Blue Origin space flight, was it a historic game changer? Probably not. But yeah, big news story. Pretty cool. Gotta say, they sent a whole group of all-female crew, actually, to space, including Jeff Bezos' is it a girlfriend or wife? And rock star, Katy Perry, some kind of a who's who, Lauren Sanchez, Gayle King, all went into space. That was just today. So they boarded the Blue Origin. That's Jeff Bezos, Amazon, is putting his big money into a spaceship, a space program, sort of like Elon with SpaceX. And he's got his penis-shaped rocket ships. Let's take a look at this.
Liftoff. New Shepard has cleared the tower.
Looks like a Hollywood production. It's pretty cool. So the footage showed the crew, which included, yes, Bezos' girlfriend Lauren Sanchez and CBS's Gail King, gazing at Earth while floating weightlessly in zero gravity.
Got it?
Look at that. That's pretty
1,
awesome.
2, 3, take us space!
Tamir's in space.
There we go. Or it's a conspiracy. They had to sign a waiver. They had to sign an NDA not to release the idea that the Earth is round. It's clearly flat. But no, they did not do that. They were only there for 11 minutes, which I thought was strange. I mean, maybe that takes them too far away geographically, or I don't know how everything all works. But they weren't in space that long. And people are pointing out the idea that with just that short amount of time, you should be like looking out the window and looking at all the cool stuff out there. The view, once in a lifetime view. But then they seem to be obsessed with singing or doing these little photo ops. You saw them kind of grouping together in there. Here we go.
Look at the blue line.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Wow.
That's our pink moon.
Then they were singing. Well, of course, Katy Perry's going to sing. But it's only like 11 minutes, man. That's a really short flight. I think you'd be able to spend like an hour up there, but I wouldn't know the logistics of that. I know they sent William Shatner up there, and he wasn't up there that long either. Same kind of thing. It's like a big ride. Here's Paul Joseph Watson, or Steve Watson, his brother. Katy Perry going to space comes back even more unbearable. So he only had a few minutes, and then she was basically just staring into the camera, holding random objects, making love heart signs. Let's see if I can get one of these.
1, 2, 3, take us space!
Tamir's in space.
It's okay. Leave Flynn up there.
There she is. Okay, you should be looking out the window.
I got you, Flynn. Gotcha.
Zero gravity. Cool.
Flynn, can I get him? Oh, the moon! You guys, I will have to tell you, look at the moon.
That would be awesome. Hopefully that'll be more routine. It'll be like going on the rides. Some people are just criticizing it, calling it a glorified amusement park ride. It is very much like the Big Shot. They have them at major amusement parks. It's a fun ride. Shoots you straight up into the air. And it's a really good one at the Las Vegas. It's because it's on top of the Stratosphere Tower. So it is a little extra terrifying being that high off the ground and being launched up at tremendous speed. But that would only be a fraction of these rockets, shutting them 60-some miles into space. They don't play, not for very long, and then they come floating down. So it is like a glorified amusement park ride. And it's just pretty short-lived, but pretty awesome. So is it a game changer? Not really, but it was cool. So anyway, that was a big story for the day. maybe they'll make that more accessible for the everyman. I would certainly take that ride if I could, if that was at a park. I don't know how much that would cost. Oh my God. But maybe they'll refine it. Maybe future generations will be able to enjoy that more. But that's all I've got today. I'm already over my time. So anyway, well, that was today's selection. Hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe. Thank you all for tuning in. And for everybody lurking, anybody watching the replay, I appreciate you guys. And we'll do it again Thursday. But that's all I've got today. So take care. I'm out.